Good morning, friends. How are you doing today? I hope some of you are still getting to enjoy this awesome snow that we've had. Maybe you're playing in it, or if it's too cold for you, maybe you're inside snuggled up with an awesome book. Either way, we are so excited that you are joining us this morning for our special Tuesday story time. And if you are wondering, why am I not seeing Miss Karen? That is because we have an awesome surprise for you today. You might remember that sometimes we get to have special author visits. And so today we actually have an author visiting us for our story time. Isn't that super exciting? Today we have Matthew Cordell, who is an award-winning author. He has won the Caldecott Award, and he has a new book out called Bear Island. So that's what he's going to be reading for us today, as well as I think doing some other fun drawing demonstrations. So sit back, snuggle in with maybe a warm blanket, maybe some hot cocoa or something, and help me in welcoming Mr. Cordell.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. I understand you got a lot of snow where you are. I live in the suburbs of a big city called Chicago, and we've had quite a bit of snow as well over the last couple weeks. So we're kind of snowed in kind of all the time around here. Not too bad though, because we have a snow blower that takes care of the driveway, so we can get in and out. But yeah, it's a nice snowy day here as well. So happy to be here with you. And just to tell you a little bit more about me, I like I said, I live in the Chicago area, a town called Gurnee, Illinois, and I'm married. My wife's name is Julie Halpern, and Julie, she writes books for boys and girls too. Her books are for older boys and girls. So her books are young adult fiction. So I'm sure a lot of my viewers here right now are younger boys and girls, but once you get into high school, maybe you'll find some of Julie's books. And Julie and I, we have two children. We have a 12-year-old daughter named Romy and a 7-year-old son named Dean. So we're actually all here. I'm coming to you today from my studio, but I actually work from home. So behind me is kind of my office and studio space, and then the room next door is Romy. She's our kids are in school from home because of because of COVID, and so it's been an interesting year or so for us. I'm sure it has been for you as well. So I'd like to read to you my new book, Bear Island. Just came out a couple weeks ago. And Bear Island is about a girl named Louise and her family, and they lose their pet dog. So it's about loss. It's about being sad and dealing with those feelings and the other feelings that come with loss, and also it's about working through those feelings, and also feeling better, and letting it all sort of come out and process itself, and feeling better as time goes on. So you all may have experienced a loss in your lives, but maybe it's not necessarily about losing a person. Sometimes loss can be about simpler things, about maybe you've lost a favorite toy, or you've lost someone's moved away. That's kind of loss. Or someone, even now with the pandemic and being stuck at home a lot, we have lost the experience of being with our friends and some of our family. We can't always be together. So, loss kind of shows up in different ways. And I think the important thing is just to know that it's going to get better. Things are going to improve eventually, and it's not going to feel horrible and terrible all the time. So that's kind of what this book touches on. So I'd like to start the book, Bear Island. And on the very first page of Bear Island, we see a baseball, like a chewed up old baseball. Turn the page, and we see sort of a cloudy, hazy sort of picture of a girl throwing that baseball, and her dog is chasing it. They look like they're having a good time. And then on this page, we see her looking at that ball, sort of maybe sad look on her face. We turn the page and we see her. She's putting some things away. She's putting that ball away and some other. Looks like there's a pet dish and some other pet toys. And then on this page, we see this girl with her family, and it says, "Goodbye, Charlie." Goodbye, Charlie. And then we see the title page, Bear Island. And now the story starts just after the title page. And it says, on a lake, there was a house. There was Louise, Mom, and Dad. There was Charlie. On that lake, there was an island. We see the family is in their kitchen there. After breakfast, Louise put on her boots and cap. "I'm going out on the boat," she said. Louise thought about Charlie, how he loved the water, how he loved the breeze on his face, how he loved to explore the island. Louise tied up the boat. It was quiet on the island. She looked around. After a long time alone, she picked up a stick and thwacked a tree. "I'm leaving," she announced. When suddenly, all around, there were butterflies, circling, flying, flitting about. A chipmunk came to investigate. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but in these pictures before, there wasn't a whole lot of color on the page, maybe just to kind of reflect the sort of sad mood she was in. You know, it's almost like black and white pictures. And then when these butterflies come out, there's a little bit more color. It's not quite bright color, but it's there's a little more color. A couple of deer sprang from the bush and approached carefully and curiously. Something new and good was happening on the island. Something new and good was happening in Louise. But then came a noise, a crunching of leaves noise, a snapping of trees noise, a chuffing of breath noise. You see the words crack, chuff, roar. A giant bear has appeared, roaring at Louise. Louise staggered back, afraid. Afraid yet angry. Angry to be made afraid. Angry about Charlie. Angry about here, now, and before. And Louise roars back at that bear. "Roar," says Louise. And the bear kind of falls back. The bear sank down to the ground. Louise crept back to the boat. Before going away, she looked again. This bear, a familiar feeling, a familiar sadness. And there we see Louise just looking at this bear, wondering what this bear's feeling. Sort of feels like it's feeling sort of what she's feeling, kind of sadness. The next day and the day after that, Louise returned to the island. Some days only Louise was better. Some days only Bear was better. Then some days, and more days, both Louise and Bear became better together. So now we see the pictures are even kind of brighter and more colorful than they've ever been. They're both feeling better. They were changing on the island. And they were changing at home. We see Louise with her family, feeling happier and better with her family. Winter was coming. The days were getting shorter, but Louise continued to visit the island. Until one morning, Bear was not there. She searched everywhere. And at last she found him, preparing his den, ready to bed down for winter. Don't go, Louise begged, but it was time for Bear to sleep. And then we see this big picture of Louise and Bear just sort of looking at each other, knowing that they're about to say goodbye. Goodbye, Bear. And now the pictures you can see have gone back from colorful to sort of sad again. It's not fair, thought Louise. When the things we love must end, and there she is visiting Charlie's gravestone there. It says, rest in peace, Charlie. But sometimes the end is also a beginning. When she gets home, she sees her mom and dad, and they have a puppy, a new puppy at their house. And just like our outside, if we look outside, we see a lot of snow is falling. Okay. So some time has passed, and it says, on the first warm day of spring, Louise and Millie, her new dog Millie, took the boat to the island. Millie did not love the water. She did not love the wind in her face, but she did love to explore. They searched everywhere for Bear, but he wasn't there. Had he ever been? And Louise is looking at that stick she used to play with Bear. Louise thought for a while, then she rowed the boat back home. And she smiled. You see Louise and her dog Millie playing in the warm spring weather. We see the island back there as well. So that, my friends, is the end of Bear Island. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear some questions at the end, but first, I would love to show you how I draw a bear. So I've got a big piece of paper here. I'm just going to hold it up and draw right here for the camera. Now, because the bear in Bear Island had sort of it looked sort of, more realistic, I would say. Louise was sort of drawn more simply, almost like a cartoon character, but the bear was drawn more realistically. And I wanted to do that because there are times when the bear was kind of scary, and I felt like it would give you more emotions about that bear if it looked real. So I drew the bear in this sort of realistic way. So I'm going to draw a bear, and when I was drawing the bear, I would, in order to better understand how to draw a realistic looking bear, I would look up pictures of the bear. So I have a picture of a bear here, here in my studio, and I use pictures like these to draw when I was drawing my book. So I'm going to draw, just by looking at this picture, I'm going to draw this big bear's face. All right. So first thing I'll draw is I think I'll draw the ears. Okay. Or one ear at least. And then I will draw and just sort of sketching it, light, sort of sketchy lines. And then there's another ear on this side. And then the nose here, the bear's nose. So we've got the bear, the top of the head, the nose, and then the eye here. Got a little eye. And then we'll start to draw the mouth of the bear. So it's starting to look a bit like a bear here. Like I said, I'm just kind of sketching. Bears are nice and shaggy. So we're just going to draw, some sketchy, shaggy lines like this. Some dots here, maybe for bear's whiskers. And we'll draw some more, just kind of shaggy, scratchy lines for the bear. You can see I'm turning the marker a little bit to, if you turn it in different ways, you can get thin lines. If I hold it like this, I can get nice, big, fat, thick lines. So I like to play around with different line thicknesses, which gives it a little more texture in different ways. And you just keep working around this bear, giving it more and more hair, fur. Bears are very furry, as you probably know. They look like they'd be soft, nice soft, and like you'd want to kind of run your fingers through their fur, but I would not suggest that. Probably not a good idea to pet a bear. So yeah, that's I just kind of like to work around, keep drawing, keep moving around the picture, not staying in one place for too long. And sometimes I'll put some dots instead of lines. Some more gives you some slightly different textures when you do different marks. And like I said, keep moving the angle of your marker. You can get different thicknesses of your line. And I think I'll just draw a nice big circle around this, oval rather. Give it a nice kind of frame, and then I can start to finish it. Like this. And maybe I can draw, I'm thinking because we've got snow, you and I both have snow, I'm going to draw some snowflakes in the background. All right. And then I think I'll just write for our friends watching today. Novel neighbor. And how about a nice big roar? All right. So there we have a quick drawing. Not too bad for about a few minutes. A little more hair down there, fur. So, what do you think? Is that okay? We can call it, take some questions. All right. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, sorry, Stephanie.
I knew I was going to do that every time.
I do the same thing.
I like that it gives you messages now. Like it learned, that we sometimes. Yeah, it was like, hey, you're muted. Thank you so much. That's so cool to see you create a bear so quickly in front of our faces, but also to attach the novel neighbor name to it. I took a picture of it.
Oh, nice. Good, good.
I loved your story. I'm sure so many people watching loved it too. I always feel like, especially some of us adults who are watching, are looking for ways to discuss grief and loss, as you were talking about, in a way that feels like a good conversation between us. So
yeah, I think so.
We have a couple questions, and the first question is, is a bear your favorite animal to draw, or do you have a different animal that's your favorite to draw, and why?
Yeah, so I think probably my favorite thing to draw are animals, like in general. I just love to draw animals. A lot of my books have animal characters, and in Bear Island, it's sort of a more realistic animal, meaning it doesn't stand up and talk and watch TV and things that people do, but I do like to draw and write books too, where animals are kind of like people. So they do people things, they talk like people. Um, I think if I had to pick a favorite animal that I have liked to draw, I'm really bad about favorites, because I just love so many different things. I think probably in general, if I'm looking, one of my favorite animals to draw has been a wolf. Um, I had a book about a wolf in the snow as well, and I really learned a lot about wolves when I made that book. It's called Wolf in the Snow, and I have such fond memories of drawing wolves and learning about wolves. So I think wolves are one of my favorite animals, and also drawing them is always a lot of fun for me too. But I'm a huge fan of birds. I like to try to go out birding every day if I can, even in the snow. And so I love birds, and I'm really obsessed right now with owls, because owls are so difficult to see and find, because as many of you probably know, owls are not awake in the daytime. They are only awake at night. So you can't, unless you go out at night or at dusk or really before dawn, you can't see owls. So I'm just like really obsessed with trying to find owls right now. So.
Oh, gosh. Well, and I mentioned at the beginning when I was introducing you that you won a Caldecott, and it was for your book Wolf in the Snow, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Feels like it makes sense that maybe wolves hold a special place in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've also, I wonder, I'd be so curious to see how many, and kids, if you're watching, I want to say that you have, I feel like we've been selling a lot of birding books at the bookstore, that I'm wondering if
Yeah.
COVID has really, people have picked up birding as a habit during quarantine.
I have heard that. I've heard that a lot of people have started to bird, because I think you can do it from your back just by looking out into your backyard. So all you have to do is put out a bird feeder and some bird seed, and give it a few days, and you'll start to see birds in your backyard, and it's kind of a nice thing, nice sort of escape, for when you have to stay at home, to be able to watch animals from your own backyard. So I think a lot of people have, and not only that, but you can go out into forest preserves and hiking trails, and still maintain that social distancing with not being in a crowded space with people. So I think a lot of people have picked up birding right now for sure.
So one of my best friends is into birding, and she constantly is trying to convince me to do it, because I'm actually petrified of birds. If anyone's watching and shares that with me, that is, I'm so scared of them. And she keeps telling me, like, you can put a bird feeder out and you don't even have to, you can be in the safety of your home and still appreciating them. So she's still working on my bird appreciation, but,
Yeah.
Once we can, yeah, little
Baby
at a time.
step.
Yeah. Well, because people go to amazing locations. Like, have you ever traveled for birding?
I have not, just for birding. I haven't, but when we can travel again, that's kind of a thing that you do when you go out, is just sort of, if you're in a new spot, just try to find the birds of that area. But because my family is not really into it, so I can't just pick up and leave. I mean, I probably could if I was really insistent on it, but I don't really like traveling without my family, so I don't want to just do stuff, on my own. But yeah.
Oh, we have a new question. This is from Grace. Grace is wondering, well, sorry, I should back up. Madison also supported me in my concern of birding, so thank you, Madison, for not leaving me out here on an island by myself. But Grace wants to know, can you talk about the challenges or differences between writing a wordless picture book and a picture book with text? And it seems like Grace says Wolf in the Snow is one of her favorite wordless books.
Nice. Thank you, Grace. It's a different experience, a completely different experience. So Wolf in the Snow, if you've read that book, you might be interested to know that it didn't start out as a wordless book. It had words when I was first trying to make that book, and I started as I was working on it, because of the nature of the story, where there's a girl and an animal, a wolf pup, that are isolated out in the snowy landscape. there's no dialogue. You know, there's only a person and an animal, so they're not really talking. There's no, it almost, and I was taking out all these words, you know, just little by little, just taking out words, and until I realized the more I was taking out the words, it was kind of making the pictures more dramatic in this book. And it's a very dramatic book because it's scary at times, and it's sometimes it makes you feel, you know, by the end you feel very hopeful, I hope, and you feel better about what's happened. But the fewer words that are there sort of describing what's happening and just letting the reader look at the pictures and the expressions on the faces, and the body language, it created more drama. So for me, I think wordless books can be really good about adding drama to the story by, you know, adding drama by taking words out, by subtracting some of the words. I don't think it's needed or works for every story. But the difficult part about wordless books is you have to be extremely aware of what you're drawing. You have to be really in tune with how the pictures tell the story, because if you draw something a little bit wrong or a little bit confusing, then the story becomes confusing to the reader, and they're not going to be able to figure out what's going on in the book. So the pictures have to work almost double time to explain what's happening in the story than they would with the words there. So in my experience, making a wordless book, even though you don't have the words, it's kind of harder to make a wordless book, because you have to think a lot more about how those pictures are describing what's happening. So it's kind of it was a big challenge for me to make that book. That was my first wordless picture book. So they're fun to make, but it's a different experience, different challenge. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Grace, for such an awesome
Yeah, thank you.
question. It's a great question. Well, and before we wrap up our time together, speaking of your other titles outside of Bear Island, what do you have coming up for us next? So Bear Island just released, so not to take away from you enjoying having a book out in the world, but I know authors are always working on multiple books, usually at once.
Oh, so right, yeah. Yeah, so my because of the whole COVID-19 confusion and chaos, some things have been moved in publication schedule. So Bear Island originally was going to come out in the fall of 2020, but it ended up moving forward a little bit and became a 2021 book. But I do have another book that, because Bear Island moved, I had another book that actually just came out. And this is a book I illustrated. It's called Follow That Frog. And this is a book that I did not write, but I have a lot of books that I've illustrated but not written. And it was actually written by an author illustrator friend of mine. His name's Philip Stead. He's written 2 other books that he and I did. So this is the end of a 3-part series. The first book is called Special Delivery. The second one is called The Only Fish in the Sea. And this one is the third book. It's called Follow That Frog. And this is very different from Bear Island. It's very funny, and it's an adventure. It's kind of a madcap, crazy, zany story. So this book just came out as well. And so that book just came out. And then I just finished pictures for what will be my first beginning reader. So a very early chapter book for, and thank you. And this is the book is going to be called Cornbread and Poppy. And these are animal characters. So these are the kind of animals that aren't realistic animals. These are they're mice. Cornbread and Poppy are these 2 mice. And I can show you one. I have a big stack. Actually, I'll show you the stack first. So it's an 80-page book. So this is all the art for this book. Lots and lots and lots of color pictures that took me a long time to make. And I'm just getting ready to wrap these up and ship them off to New York to the publisher. But this is a picture. This is all will go on the title page. That is Cornbread and Poppy. Cornbread is the blue mouse, and Poppy is the brown mouse, and they have this is an adventure that they go on, and they have to go up into this mountain. It's called Holler Mountain, and kind of it's a fun little friendship story, but it's also an adventure. And so Cornbread and Poppy, and then there's two Cornbread and Poppy books, and the first one comes out in the winter time, and the second one will come out in the springtime, so not too far apart. And the second one is about a carnival, so it's more of a springtime story, like a spring summer carnival. So lots of fun
That's
stuff. And then there's
amazing.
lots of other projects that are just really in the early stages that I'm just starting, like writing a couple books and doing character studies and things like that. So yeah, as you said, there's a lot. You always sort of have a bunch of different projects in different stages, so that you keep having this steady flow of books come out. So yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
been very fortunate to keep busy. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, Cornbread and Poppy are getting lots of love in the comments. People
Oh,
can't even
nice.
how cute they are.
Oh, awesome.
I think there's some anxious fans already. And there's another compliment from Kara that your illustrations are wonderful. So
Oh,
thank you
thank you.
so much for continuing to create for us and for showing up for us this morning on such a snowy day when we've already been inside for a couple of days because of just how cold it is. So we really appreciate you coming and brightening our Tuesday morning.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, we're going to sign off, but thank you so much and join us. Oh, one quick thing I did want to mention. Gosh, I said I was going to. And then we have, if any educators are watching, we have an educator night coming up with Mr. Cordell. And so you can find information about that on that's your story time. Sorry. I was going to tell people where they can find it. So that'll be coming up at the end of February. So if you subscribe to our newsletter, you can find information there. You can also find it up on our website under events. It'll be a Thursday evening on Zoom. So up close and personal with you, Mr. Cordell, talking about Bear Island. There's some awesome swag that Macmillan has been so great to give to us. And so if you sign up, the first 25 people, I believe it is, are going to get some extra swag for your classrooms and for your libraries. So
Nice.
this is not our last time we will be seeing you. So again, we really appreciate it. And we will see you later this month.
Okay, great. Looking forward to it. All right, bye, everyone.